I'm going to start the January 22nd Board of Selectmen's meeting. Bring the meeting to order, and as I always remind everybody, we are recording this meeting on video and with an AI tool to help us with drafting the minutes. When you speak, please come to the podium and announce your name for the record. Tonight, we have our water precinct commissioners here tonight to give us an update of what's been going on. Yeah, so we all have copies of the reports and all of this sort of stuff. So, it's time to talk right into the microphone.
Okay, thank you.
And say your name.
I'm Ken Jakes. This is Peter Hoagland. We're both commissioners. Rip is away right now, but visits with us via Zoom. So, I had told you we were going to keep you informed of what was going on. We sent you copies of the latest two proposals from well, it's Emery and Garrett, but it's not called Emery and Garrett anymore. But GZA, right, and Underwood. And that is the proposal for their next step on evaluating whether there's any low-hanging fruit on Colby Point. The monies are around $50,000. The commissioners have agreed and have voted to put a warrant article on to the warrant this year that will be funded through the fund balance, so unappropriated fund balance, for the $50,000. And we're going to take it to that next step. If that's approved by the voters, they would probably do the work prior to Memorial Day out on the point. And you know, it's just more evaluation of what the existing infrastructure is, whether they can do find anything with a new exploratory well, whether there's any value in trying to upgrade the two better wells that we have to a larger casing sizes and larger pumps. That being said, we have not spoken with the Cleveland Corporation yet to make sure that they were amenable to what we were trying to do. That's on my list of things to do tomorrow morning. So I'm planning on meeting with Susan and Cotton and probably John. So we'll see how that goes. But that's where we're up to. I just wanted you to know that. I think after that, the next step for the engineering is not $50,000. It's a lot of money. And we would probably be talking with the selectmen again regarding whether or not there was going to be any town participation, because you know, we may not be able to go any further. So I just wanted you to know that. That's where we're up to. And you know, we're moving ahead with what we can do right now. So that's the next step. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
Ken?
Comments?
Ken, did you say that you are going to have, it's me. Did you say that you are going to have an article for the warrant this year?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question on that. When is your annual meeting this year?
1 week after yours.
No, it's technically the day before ours. So
It
we
is?
are voting on March 10th, but then the business portion of our meeting is Wednesday, the 18th. And you guys are Tuesday, the
We're not doing it the
17th.
next day because we're doing it at Colby. We're waiting for them to be on break. So our annual meeting will be the day
Right.
after
Maggie
theirs?
did say
Yes.
that. We're 1 day because of your
Okay.
change, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
When do you think we'll have the article for the warrant?
It's going to be for their warrant.
Oh, so we,
It's for our,
It's for their
our
warrant.
own individual warrant.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
Yep. Okay. So it's the task one on the Emery and Riddle, and it's the Underwood Engineers
Yeah, it's
proposals.
$50,000.
$50,000.
$50,000.
Okay. And all this other stuff that's in the Emery and what, these are all estimates. They have to do this first part first, really, to get
Yep.
a real true. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Rich, do you have any other questions? Janet?
I have a question.
Okay. And Colin has a question.
So I was wondering whether the Board of Selectmen had discussed any collaborative efforts that we had suggested with the precinct in trying to go forward on some sort of funding. And the reason I ask that is because it helps us on a planning perspective. And also, I was at the planning board meeting, the last one. You saw me there. And I noticed in listening to what went on at that meeting, there are a couple of articles that change the zoning in the town to accommodate, the two that I look at is and I understand why the institutional one is being changed, and the cottage courts. Clearly, we wouldn't be in a position to supply water for those, but they're going on the books anyway. So I didn't know if you folks had had a chance to discuss where you were headed with our request, or have you not gotten that far? That's fine. Rip said, make sure you ask that question, and he's our chairman, so I said, I'll ask.
So your request from the last meeting, can you restate your request?
Well, we would like to see some participation on behalf of the town in trying to come up with more water. And I have a feeling, and I'm not a great judge of some of those things, but even if there is some water on Colby Point, we may be in a position where we have to look at that very carefully and determine on a cost basis, is it worth going after that water? If it's $2-3 million and you're gonna get 50,000 gallons of water a day, you gotta start looking really hard at how you're spending your money. Which then, if that's the case and that's not the best alternative, it kicks you into the next level, which is in the tens of millions of dollars, which is not something that the precinct can go after alone. I'm sure of that. I mean, if you looked at the precinct tax rate this year, just on doing Main Street, you can crunch the numbers, and it gives you a very good idea as to what a $10 million bond or a $12 million bond would do to the tax rate. I mean, we would come close to being almost where you folks are in the total town. You're running the whole town. Again, we don't have the tax base that you have. The secondary homes, the lakefront, so forth. It makes quite a big difference in your valuation. So anyway, that's what we had talked about last time was, and I get it's not an easy question. I read the selectmen's minutes. You guys have a lot on your plate too.
Yep.
And there's a lot of money that's gonna go out the door in the next 10 years in this town. So anyway, if you don't have an answer now, that's fine. But I wanna keep the dialogue going.
I know, I do too.
And maybe you get through this budget season and you get through town meeting, and then there's more time to talk in the ensuing year. That's fine.
Yeah, because I'm trying to envision how we would ask the rest of the town. It's gonna be a big PR campaign. Huge,
It is.
Yep.
But as I've said before, and the board has said, that it's not the precinct that wants the water. It's the town wants to be able to do different projects within the community that, as I described it before, we've kept the precinct boundaries the same forever. And we've fought to keep them from getting bigger or getting smaller. And when you make changes in density, you don't grow the precinct from the inside out, you grow it from the outside in by changing the zoning. And there's been some changes, the commercial density, the density in the commercial district adds quite a lot of units. I think Adam's estimate was about 180. Now, that's not all gonna get built out.
No.
I understand that. But by the same token, it provides opportunities for people, we got some stuff kicking around, you know what's coming down by Tucker's where the little art studio is, they're talking about putting 2 apartments in there. Yeah, so, and you're gonna see more of that with the state being a little bit more authoritative on what you have to do with ADUs. You see that, you have a warrant article on, a zoning amendment on, just like we do in Springfield, to accommodate that, because that's a change. And I got a feeling there's gonna be more stuff coming from the state, reading some of the legislative bulletins. So, I get that, and back in the 80s, there was a lot of conversation, you and I talked about this, people, on whether or not the town should be participating in the water precinct. The precinct was at a crossroads then.
Right.
Well, we're at the next crossroad now.
Well, so that was the conversation that you and I had, and I didn't really get a feeling if you were interested or not in trying to put together that kind of a group of people again.
To tell me the same thing is what I said. I mean,
I
it's-
still haven't
it's
seen what they
another
told
study.
you.
I'm sorry?
I still haven't seen what they told you. I haven't seen the results from that committee that was formed.
I showed you that. I will show you.
Okay.
Okay? I mean, in short, that group met, and what they looked at was whether or not, and there was some commissioners, there were some townspeople that were involved. I
Yeah.
mean, Peter Bianchi's one of them.
I was going to say, are any of them still around?
Well, Bianchi's around, and Johnny Clough's still around, but I don't know if that helps
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
But, you know, basically what, they looked at two things. They looked at, one was, did the town want to just take over the water precinct? And nobody had the stomach for that. And when I got involved with the precinct, at the time, the Board of the Selectmen was, and I'll think of the two of them, was Moreland and Bucher. And we sat down and talked, and I was told, we don't want anything to do with the water precinct. And that's the end of that. And I said, okay, that's pretty simple. But the first report that came out, that group, they basically determined that it was in the best interest of everybody if the precinct stayed as its own entity, because it had the qualified and certified people to still operate the precinct. What they didn't have was a huge amount of water, and we needed to look for water. Right. And as I said before, they had, the Safe Drinking Water Act took place in the 80s. New Hampshire adopted it, and it got funneled back to all the towns who had to abide by it. And, we had the worst-case scenario, typical little New England water system. Pond in the woods, gravity feed to the town. But when we were on Morgan Pond, there were many years there were water bans, because you just didn't have enough water then. That didn't get better, and the state said you couldn't use that particular source. And, thank God Colby Point came along. Thank God we had the opportunity to work with the Clevelands and develop that. But that wasn't the end-all, and it wasn't forever. Mm-hmm. I was kind of hoping I wasn't going to be back into the figuring out where it was going next, but I am here, and we'll figure it out. But there's no question in my mind that, if the town wants to grow, and it's the town that wants to grow, and the people are going to the little voting booth, and they're voting for the zoning amendments to allow the town to grow, that the town should be involved in the solution. That just is what makes sense to me.
Colin, I see you squirming back there.
Colin Beasley, resident, not a very good descriptor, by the way. I think, actually, I raised my hand for a question, but I'm going to comment on this particular conversation. I think that we would be hard-pressed to find anybody in the town who wouldn't agree that the water infrastructure is important to the town going forward financially and development-wise. I think that whatever decisions were made in the past should be revisited because life is fundamentally different today. The amount of money necessary for infrastructure development is significantly more than it ever used to be. The capacity of the water precinct financially to absorb those costs is minimal. The capacity of the town is not. So I think it's very, very important. And so if it were my candy store, the strategy is water important, yes or no? There's an operations analysis that has to get done. There's a financial analysis that has to get done. And they're linked. But the operations analysis, and I've said it, but I think it's worth repeating, the town can partner with the precinct. And I'm going to use what I was going to ask a question about, the water flow discussion. Right there, one of the items that were identified by the engineers, the last report I read, was the water flow measurement device for $1 million. On Colby Point. Now, I've read some articles, and water measurement is very important. And to the extent that you actually had water measurement, effective water measurement, you would have known the status of those wells And I think one of them was having a problem. You didn't discover it until later on, 2 of them. So if the town is reliant on water, the town, Main Street, right, and we're not able to know the status of our water, that's a problem, right? So if 95% of the town, I'm making the number up, I suspect I'm close, 95% of the water is New London's water, one could actually lay out a scenario that says the town of New London would partner with the water precinct, make available the water flow measurement monies, and ask them to manage it. That's a business model. That can happen. And you can lay out the financials associated with that. And you can take this one step at a time. You could get to the point where you're going to say, I'm going to make it up. If 95% of the assets sit in London's territory or are serving London's customers, one could argue to transfer those assets to the town and still ask the precinct to manage it. Up to and including at some point in time, you could say, we're going to absorb the precinct employees and all their expertise and put them somewhere and manage it. And you now have a scenario like you have with sewage between Sunapee and London, right? So those are the steps that I think you need to lay out operationally, the financial aspect of that, the asset transfer aspect of that. All those things can be played out with the right people. And I agree, BB, it might be a pill to swallow, but it has to start with strategically, if you're not able to, forget about the growth for a moment, just the current main. If anything happened to the water source, we're going to be sitting here saying, oh my, what are we doing? We don't have an alternative water source. And that's a lot of money. Maybe that's 25 years down the road, but if you're not planning for it, are you being fiduciary responsible by not planning for it, all right? So I think it's important that some committee get formed with the right expertise, financial operations, water, and they just churn away at it. It could take a year to play all that out, but just churn away at it. And so the reason why I actually raised my hand was the water flow issue. I mean, is there any conversation, is that still an issue? Should the water precinct be looking at that measurement device?
We are looking at it.
Okay.
We have the ability to monitor all the wells, but we have to do it manually
Right.
and in the pump
Right.
house. The transducers and the monitoring system that's being talked about out on for each well, there's a lot of things we're not sure we have that can operate that. We don't have enough
okay.
power capacity.
Okay.
It involves putting in
Meters,
pits
yeah.
at each of the well sites. That was one of the things that was cut out in the early 90s because what we were doing there, we were way over budget on. And the reason we got way over budget is when we built the pump station across the street from Colby Point, we didn't realize the 75 square feet that we had was all ledge. And so we were way over on ledge extraction. And something had to be cut. So that was one of the things that got cut out. But at the same time, the engineers did tell us, you had the ability to monitor it on a manual basis, so it's not the end of the world.
And we discovered the possible risk associated with manual monitoring in that there were 2 wells that were a little bit,
It was actually
having
picked
trouble
up by,
last
yeah,
year.
that was picked up by the well maintenance
Right,
group that was
right.
out there. They did some flow testing
Yeah,
on the wells
yeah.
and figured out that we weren't getting the
Yeah.
flow we should have had. And it turns out that the pumps themselves were original pumps
Mm-hmm.
and the impellers were pretty much shot. And so they weren't moving any water.
if you were able to remotely monitor and develop that database, you'd be able to see
You might
water
have seen, you've
trends
seen the
and-
drawback,
right.
the drawdown of that, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think, just one person's point of view, I think that I will never benefit from water to my house. But I would pay a water tax
Yep.
if I could ensure that water is going to be insured for this town. I think it's that important.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you.
Another question that I have is, are you still looking into any grant opportunities at all? I know in the past that you've said before we never
Every grant
qualified.
opportunity that
Yep.
we have, that we think is viable for the
Yep.
precinct. So we monitor that with our representatives at DES in Concord, and
Yep.
they tell us which grants are a possibility
Yeah.
and which are not. So, yeah.
Is there any other public comment? Yeah. think your mic yeah, sorry.
Okay. Okay, I'm Jerry Coogan. I live in town. I've been here for 26 years. I too support the town getting involved in the water precinct and being supportive of their efforts. And I think a model is how the town funds sewer. You know, for the sewer bond, 2/3 of that bond was paid by the sewer users and 1/3 was paid by everybody else who lived in town, who were not on the sewers. And that might be a model for going forward for funding a bond issue for water improvements. And, you know, if we don't have the water, we're not going to be able to grow, housing's not going to be able to happen. And regarding grants, I think there are grants out there. We got some communication from Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander, who says she's looking for projects for the Water Resource Development Act, and she'd like to get some comments of projects that are viable. It gets into a process, and it may get funded at some time in the future. There's community development block grants. If you have a viable project like housing, that could trigger a community development block grant. Also, there's northern border grants. But I think the town's got to get aggressive and provide some leadership in this area. And I'd be in favor of a non-binding consensus warrant article for this town meeting that would say, is the town of New London interested in being involved financially in helping water improvements? And make it non-binding, but just see what the town people feel about water, if they want to be able to, if they're interested in spending money on water improvements. And I kind of agree with what Colin said about maybe it's time to rethink things, and maybe the town might consider, do we have the appetite of getting involved in taking over their duties and responsibilities of the water precinct, but do that in cooperation with the precinct over a period of time. So I would encourage the board to get really involved in water, and because we have these projects languishing out here. Nothing's happened with Continuum for years. I'm an old person, and us old people would like to stay in town and maybe downsize, and Continuum would be an excellent place to go to if that ever happened. So thank you.
Jerry, do you know this Maggie Goodlander thing here? They need a response something by noon tomorrow. Do you?
Well, I don't know if it's noon tomorrow, but I gave the information to Ashley, and I'm trying to work with the person down there, and I've communicated with her, but I'll be back in touch.
Okay. Would you guys be okay if we tried to reach out to them?
I mean, it's very preliminary. It's
Yeah.
just
It's
just
something.
It's just a concept.
Yeah.
So we did a little homework.
Okay.
Randy Sousa, who's our representative at DES, we spoke with him about this particular funding opportunity. And I'll tell you what he said, okay? He knows nothing that WRDA would have to offer other than potential funding sources that they may have access to that others do not. He said that he would ask around to see if anyone else knows anything about this, but bottom line is DES, FDA, and US EPA deal with drinking water, not WRDA. Now, the Water Resources Development Act, if you look into what they typically do, and Randy kind of said the same thing on it, they do things like building levees, or supporting things, building levees, maintaining ports, restoring wetlands, managing waterways. Now, addressing water needs. They focus on national economic competitiveness, security, and domestic water infrastructure. And we've been to some of their, I'll call them little forums or clinics, but, and Robbie just went to one on cybersecurity just more recently. And that's the type of thing from a water infrastructure that they would deal with. It's not the development of it. Our understanding is it's not the development. And then there's bipartisan, biennial, generally passed by Congress every 2 years, and then not funding, it's authorization only, the funding comes later. So, you know, I'm not saying it's not a viable opportunity, but we're gonna check into it more. But our initial conversations with DES, which was 2 days ago, didn't say you're gonna probably get a lot of money out of this. But yeah, it's a start, I just don't know if it's applicable.
I actually had a one-on-one conversation with Congressman Goodlander about the water situation, so it's worth it, worth it.
Send her up with her checkbook. We'll
I will.
sign her right up.
Well, I am in favor of trying to put together another group to, because I don't have the capacity to do it, and I always say I'm the expert in finding the experts. That's all I'm an expert in, and just,
That's fine.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to put that together, we certainly would participate.
we would do this together. We would choose people together to do this, yeah. Because
I'm
we
just
have.
not a huge fan of study committees, that's all. Because I think that they rehash the same.
Oh, I know, and I know the employees in the town have put a kibosh on me. I'm not allowed to put together anymore. But I just think it's worth, and like whoever said, Colin or Jerry, it doesn't, it's not immediate. It's a conversation, and it's
Yeah.
getting, we have a lot of really great people in town that have
I get that.
good skill sets and are willing to do the research, and, yeah.
Just to comment on Mr. Coogan's comments, the precinct is not looking to become part of the town of New London.
I know
Right
you-
up front, I'm telling
I
you that
know.
right now. And I don't think that the people in Springfield are looking to be customers of the town of New London. And I think that a non-binding question to everybody saying, you know, are you in favor of participating? I think until people actually have the numbers, it's difficult for them to look at it and say, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I think when there's money involved, then you get a different response from people. You know, it's, when you do the survey for your master plan, you know, are you in favor of clean water? You know, in Springfield, we had like 110 people said yes, and 8 people said no. I want to meet those 8 people. What the hell's the matter with you? You're not in favor of clean water? So, you know, sometimes it's the way the questions are put together. Anyway,
So I think that comment is very important, right? If in fact there is a line of demarc where Springfield doesn't want to play, I'm using those terms, right? I mean, that's important to know, right? So the question is, what is the operating model between the water precinct and the town of London if the town of London is going to raise $1 million or $2 million or whatever the number is and hand it over to the precinct? That's what I'm talking about, getting your arms around. And that operating model covers a gamut. So if you want to draw the line that says you can't go past that line, okay, then work within that. But that requires conversation at
Yeah.
a level of detail,
You've
right?
seen how hard it is for us to get projects done in New London. We've been trying to get a new police station for how many years? People in New London want to see the numbers and the data.
get that, yep.
And then,
I think to Colin's point, though, if you look at look up Enfield and see what's going on with the big development that's coming into, and I can't remember the name of the farm, but
yeah,
something farm.
I know what you're talking about.
You know, that's an interesting scenario there, where the developers wants to come into town, and it's 300 units, I believe, and the town has told them that, you know, these are your options. Either you develop a well, and it becomes part of our town water, or you take over one of the bad wells that we have, that we don't use for domestic water, and you need to redevelop that and clean it all up. And in talking with our attorney, you know, there are multiple scenarios just in the state of New Hampshire where towns have gotten together with precincts, or precincts have gotten together with towns, or 2 towns have gotten together to solve a water issue. So I don't think it's, you know, it's cutting-edge technology.
Agreed.
There's a lot of,
Agreed.
there's a lot of
That's right.
collaboration
Yeah.
out there to make
That's right.
things work.
Yep. I mean, if the town were to do, again, make it up, right? If the town were to take a piece of land and say to a developer, you know, build a well and, you know, the water's the town's, the town would want to make an agreement with the water precinct to manage that. So that's the conversation that has to play out, right? It's sort of a very particular step-by-step conversation about what are the options, where is the line going to get drawn, and what are the costs and benefits associated with each of those options. Then you can have a conversation about it, right?
Okay, I want to hear from you two. I've been the only one talking.
You know, I think I've indicated in the past that I think the town is very supportive of making sure that there is plenty of water, clean water available. But I do think that you have to consider what the town of New London's participation would be in oversight of any monies that would be spent. So even though you all are in charge, you're going to have to listen to whomever we put on a committee with you. But I honestly believe doing more about the water situation is the right thing to do, and I think people in this town would agree with that.
So you heard me say before, so I was one of 4 people probably, and I don't even live in London, that went to that bond hearing when it was Larry and Tina, and who's the one who lives on the Big Lake? He was a selectman at the time.
Oh, Mark Kaplan.
Mark Kaplan. And they laid out the whole scenario, and I was really interested in understanding how they came up with this formula. Because, I don't live in New London, but I have property in New London that is part of a business. And, I said to him, when we have a problem with a septic system, and we're required to upgrade that septic system, we don't get 33 1/3% back from the town of New London to make that right. Whereas, if you live on Main Street and you're on town sewer, you do get that. And so, I don't know, Mark said something, and I said, I can be honest with you, I said, there's a lot that could happen with the water precinct that we would love to have 33% or 33 1/3% monies coming to the precinct. And, he said, well, town sewer is really important to everybody because everybody benefits from it. And I said, well, if you don't have water to go into the sewer, you don't need to go through with this bond issue, do you? And so there was not an awful lot, my point is there weren't 300 people in the room saying, oh my God, are we gonna have to pay this, or we're gonna pay I live down on Pleasant Lake, but I'm paying for the town sewer, or I live out on Todd Farm, or whatever. I didn't see a lot of people rushing to the door complaining either way, or even being, seemed to be a fairly apathetic scenario. And it went through, and that's fine, and everybody lives with it, but it is what it is.
I just hope that if we get to whatever point we get to, that you're willing to listen to whatever our suggestions are.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah.
We do not enjoy being in this position, okay? And I've said it before. I talk to people all the time. New London's a town that, read the warrant. They have articles that protect everything. The Conservation Commission, money for this. You know what I hear about Colby Point? How much more water can we get out of that thing anyway? That's a valuable natural resource. It should get the same consideration as others. And we're just at that point where now, with the demand and the size of the demand, it's going to be an ongoing issue. We already saw what happened with Continuum and with Twin Pines, so
Right.
that's not going to get better right away.
Well, thank you for showing up here tonight and explaining that to us.
You're very welcome. I'm glad you meet at 5:30 and not 7:30.
I bet.
Rich, any thoughts?
Yep, perhaps we'll invade. Just a thought. No, I honestly would just echo, I think Janet said it well, that I think your case is a strong one in terms of the concerns that you folks have about the different issues that you've laid out. But then the question becomes, what do we do in terms of the oversight, et cetera? And that's going to be the challenging part of it. I don't have any great ideas in that regard.
If it's helpful, I could speak with our attorney, who's been in the water business most of his life, and actually was recommended to us by Graham. And I can get some scenarios of how those relationships have gone forward in other places in the state.
Yeah, I
would
think
be
something like that could be
Yeah.
very helpful in
Yep.
terms of just
Well,
giving us some
possibly.
ideas, because,
Yeah,
I get it, yeah, it's
yeah,
juggling, trying to make it all go together, so.
all right.
But I will say this, it is interesting to me when I think about it, the qualitative difference between when you replaced that line along Main Street for the existing customers And when we talk about a very substantial expense for potential future customers, because I certainly don't blame at all your existing customer base of saying, we have water, we're happy with the system we have, and yes, we'll replace a line when we need to, but I can understand why they would not be enthusiastic about, you know.
That's been the comments that we've gotten, is that, you know, why should that responsibility be borne by the existing customers? You know, and I get that. You know, the Main Street thing was something that had to happen, and 1950 was a long time ago.
No, I mean, I had gotten a call recently from somebody who wanted to rant to me about what had happened with their water bill, and I suggested I wasn't really the person to speak to about that. But again, you know, the concern also that he mentioned was any thoughts about, you know, dramatically increasing their costs yet again to pay for future customers. He just couldn't see it, and I thought he had a point.
I just think it's worth mentioning, you mentioned the cost to the consumer of water. You know, one of the things we hear all the time, and I hear it from the state too, when we do go for grants and stuff, well, you guys have some of the cheapest water in the state of New Hampshire. Unfortunately, nobody factors in the way we pay for capital costs. So you can't just take the water bill and say, well, look at this, that's a hell of a deal. You gotta factor that little line on your tax bill that says how much you pay per thousand for the water precinct, then add that to your water bill. We're not the cheapest in the state when you do that, because most precincts and towns don't do it that way. It just becomes part of the public works in the town, or in the precinct, they do it in a way that all of it is borne by the rate users, and because their build-out is almost 100%. In our case, it's not. And if we do it just by the rate users, then the people who own land and are not using water pay zero. Zero.
Yep.
And so,
Well, as part of this group, I'm sure part of it will be looking at the cost model as well, which I know you've looked at before and recently
I'm sorry, which
adopted.
model?
I'm saying part of this group of people would probably be looking at the cost model, which I know you've just adjusted recently, but for that reason. Well, maybe, Ken, you and I can. Okay.
Let's get through the annual meetings.
Okay, that's fair. And then if you can find the report from the group from the 80s, I know Ashley asked Jim Perkins in archives, he can't find anything. So I would just be curious to.
You gotta look at that round container that used to be in the selectmen's office.
No, we did go out and look at the cottage at the transfer station where a lot of our files are. And there's nothing there either.
You know, and I'll just say one last point, you know, to Jerry's point before about, you know, for example, a CCR, for example, you know, that could be potentially a wonderful addition to the town of New London, but if we can't figure out the water issue, it's never going to happen.
Yeah. I just want to ask, anybody else sitting here has any other further comments? I don't mean to leave anybody out. Okay. All right. All right, I guess, thank you. You can go back down the hill now, Ken. Thanks.
Great, and I'll get that information from Greg on what other scenarios exist out there in the state.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Peter. Bye.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Next up on the agenda is the public comments section, and Mr. Ellis has been waiting to ask some questions, and I think they're going to be aimed to you, Ashley.
Well, easy
Yeah.
ones. During this, John Ellis, a resident, during this recent ice storm that we had, how did it impact the dispatch center as it was fully operational? The second part would be, if it did, how long was it impacted?
Yeah, so there was some impact. Both generators at the Academy Building and Whipple and Bucher failed. we were able to get them back on in the same day. It was only out here for about 15 minutes. But in general, they handled a lot of phone calls that day. And so they had Lieutenant Keith and Chief Cobb answering dispatch phone calls as well from the dispatch center. There was some after storm technical issues that both buildings faced because the power surged so many times, but that did not impact dispatch service at that time. There was a printer that they couldn't connect to, and so they were having to write things manually, but not everything. We had some issues down at the Academy building as well, but those were fixed relatively quickly.
And that was, you say 15 minutes?
15 minutes for Bucher.
Okay. And was that the 911 that went down, but the 2626 continued to operate?
It was the whole building went down.
Both were down? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then when you said they were writing manually, what were they writing if the system was off?
No, so that happened after the fact when they couldn't print. So after power came back on for several days, they weren't able to connect to a printer, so they were working with our technology vendor to get that printer back connected, to trying to troubleshoot what happened there. And it was because the power surged so many times, going on and off with the generator, that somehow it kicked the printer off. So they were writing calls manually. Maybe they were also doing reports. I'm not sure. We'd have to ask Chief Cobb specifically what was being written manually.
Okay. If someone had an emergency, then the line would be dead, they couldn't get through?
There was coverage for all calls. Again, Chief Cobb isn't here, so I can't speak to real specifics, so you're more than welcome to reach out to her. But there was no disruption with service.
So calls could come in then?
Yes.
But I thought you just said they were...
Again, Chief Cobb isn't here, so I'm not confident in my answers on the
Oh,
intricacies, so you'd have to ask her.
Is there a backup system that, in the event that would happen again?
There is, yes.
And
There,
that would
we have a whole plan, emergency management plan for
That
backup
would
and
be another
redundancies.
Chief Cobb question.
No, that actually can't be made public because of the nature of the contents of what's in the report
You mean the backup system? If it
and
cuts
how
off
that
again,
works,
is
but there is.
Is a secret?
Sorry?
It's a secret, nobody should know about it, or what?
Well, emergency management plans in general aren't for public consumption because it does have very sensitive data about how buildings are wired and what that plan looks like
Yeah.
to make sure that there is no counterterrorism attacks.
Right. No, I guess I understood that the system was down. And do we have anything else other than when the system's down to?
Yeah, I would say Chief Cobb would be the best person to really dive into the specifics on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure.
I need to turn my microphone back on. Oh, okay. All right. Next, we've got the library budget approval.
Yes, and so we've got a few pieces. You guys haven't voted fully on a budget yet. So we've got two areas still to review. The library budget, which was reviewed back at the Jamboree Day, and we said, let's pause to see where we land with the COLA. So Richard is back with that budget. And then the 2027 capital reserve deposit into capital reserve. So I've got that information as well.
Okay,
So we'll talk about those two items.
excellent.
Thank you much. Richard Tutwiler, Library Director for the Tracy Memorial Library. Thank you all for having me, as always. As Ashley noted, this budget has not really changed since the last time that you looked at it back at the Jamboree. It was originally vetted in September by the Library Board of Trustees. So there's not really any new information. But just for the sake of clarity and making sure that we're all on the same page, I'm happy to give a very brief oversight of it. This budget does include a 3% cost of living adjustment for staff, as well as a 2.5% step increase for staff, just keeping in line with other town departments Again, for the library, we have to front load our budget. That's why the numbers at the beginning look a little different than everybody else's. Just to go over our receipts again, our total library income, and this is the income that the library generates, we're projecting nearly a 10% increase. The trust funds that we, are recipients of are managed by the trustees of the trust, and they've been doing quite well. So that is a boon that helps lower our appropriation request. And we've also been able to, generate more grant funding than in previous years. Our current year, we, are at $15,000 worth of grants used to support some of our capital projects and have less of a capital reserve transfer from the library building maintenance line. So overall, we're doing quite well there. Our appropriation request is a 4.4% increase from last year. That's $789,618. Our total budget is a 4.7% increase from last year at $848,218. The lion's share of those increases that we're seeing from last year to this year are our staff. It's the personnel cost just going up by that 3% and that 2.5%. And then also, of course, the larger than expected increase for health benefits that we're all currently dealing with. That being said, again, I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions that any of you all may have. Just let me know.
Okay. Janet, do you have any questions? Rich? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the library budget in the amount of $789,618? So moved. All in favor? Aye. Okay, you're good.
Thank you all so much.
Richard, do you want to take a moment and just mention your new employee who started this week?
Oh yeah, we actually have a new employee at the library. Megan Flanagan has joined us. She is commuting all the way from Thetford, Vermont, braving the weather, and she's got a huge SUV, so she's raring to go. But yeah, she started just this Tuesday, replacing an outgoing employee, and we're happy to have her with us. She has her own MLIS, which is quite rare for a position like this, but we're very excited to have her on board.
That's great. Right. Okay.
She's all yours.
Thank you kindly. Okay, transfers to capital reserves. Let me see here. I'm going to try to do my best in place of our dear Lynn. So we are looking at the purple pages in your budget binder dated December 31st, which you all should have. Do you
I
have
don't
them?
have with me, but that's okay.
Okay,
Keep-
well,
I
I can speak to them and then pass them down
I
to
have
you.
other notes here.
Okay, so the total cost for transfers into capital reserves is $960,000, and then the breakout is, there are a few updates. She did update the communications equipment down to $50,000. That was originally 100, I believe 150. We had discussed moving that down to 50 and then splitting it out between the next two fiscal years. So maybe it was 100,000. So she has updated that, so it's 50,000 in for the communications equipment. The only one that is still up for questioning is the energy projects. So we have in here a placeholder of 50,000. The budget committee has proposed 80,000, so an additional 30,000. So that's something for you all to consider as you think about this. And then that would bring the total to 990,000. And I'm happy to share the breakdown list with you if that would be helpful. I've circled it, if you want to take a minute to look at it.
Yep, I reviewed it this afternoon.
Okay,
So I had the same figure, 990,000.
990 with that extra 30.
I would, and we hadn't voted on any of this yet.
Correct,
So
you guys had not voted on.
So we can just start with a motion for that number if we are all in agreement, or if we're not in agreement, we can have a different number. But I'm fine with matching what the budget committee did last night for the energy account, for increasing to 80,000.
As for myself, regarding that, the concern that I have about the amount that the Budget Committee increased it by up to $80,000, only left approximately $7,000 as wiggle room, if you will, in terms of should something be more expensive than they believe. $7,000 doesn't give us much breathing room. And I was going to propose that we add $20,000 more to make it $100,000. Again, this is money that's simply being set aside, which I wouldn't want us to run into a situation where everything says go, except for the fact that we are shy by $3,000 or something like that. And so it seems to me $7,000 is just running it way too tight. So my proposal was going to be that we push that up to $100,000. Again, it is just money that's being set aside that gives us that additional breathing room that I think would be very helpful if it turns out we need it. And if we don't need it, wonderful. Just my thought.
Okay. So 990 million.
Thank you.
Janet, do you have any questions on any of these?
No, I don't disagree with Rich. I think that's.
Okay. I don't disagree either. So then the total amount, in my calculation, would be $1,010,000. Yep. Right? Okay. So may I have a motion? Does anybody in the audience want us to go through the list of where all these, the money, which accounts? Okay. Go ahead, John. I saw you sit forward.
I have to admit,
Okay.
it looks like
Okay, then I'm going to ask for a motion to approve $1,010,000 to be transferred into our capital, to be collected and transferred into our capital reserve accounts.
second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so then the last thing we have to vote on are is the money that will be spent in 2027 out of our capital reserve accounts, correct? And then the total budget amount, and would we do that?
Yes, the
Friday?
only, Lynn didn't mention the going out of capital reserves. All she said was library and money going into capital reserves.
Okay.
But if,
Honestly, I don't think we have to, it's in the plan, but I don't, it's not something that's being raised by the taxpayers. So I think it's just, as we go through the year, we're agents for these,
agents to expend,
Right.
yeah.
right, okay. But you can talk to Lynn about it, make sure we do it right.
Absolutely. And we do still have the meeting next Friday, so
Next
in the
Friday.
event I have messed anything up, we have one more try, but that's it.
All right,
But yes, you do need to vote on the
on the
over.
total, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to do that tonight, or do you want
No.
to do that?
Well,
Friday.
Yeah, because we don't know what it is. We just added another 20,000.
Yep.
Let's let Lynn cross all the Ts and dot all the Is and make sure we have the right number. Okay.
Sounds good.
I think that's it. Was there anything else that the Budget Committee, besides do we want to talk at all about that, about the decision by the Budget Committee last night to add the full-time firefighter back in? No? We don't have to talk about it? Okay.
Speak of the devil.
Because we'll be talking about it next
Oh,
Friday,
yes.
for
Yep.
sure.
Absolutely.
And, so anyway, besides that, was there anything else that they did last night, I can't remember, that was different from our budget? So, the only difference.
honestly
The only
cannot
difference at the moment that we have.
Remember?
I know, it was a late one. So the only difference that we have at the moment now is the firefighter position, and now we just added another
The
20
energy.
into the energy. So those are the only two differences at the moment.
Correct.
Okay, good,
Okay.
all right. New business.
Okay, so there, House Bill 737 passed late last year, and it involved Keno and Games of Chance. They are technically two separate gaming opportunities, so these potentially would be two separate warrant articles. I did talk to town council. These don't go into effect until July 1st, 2027, but he recommended, he said many towns are choosing to do warrant articles now because businesses and nonprofits can start to put in their applications. And so if we don't do anything, it is automatic that that Keno and Games of Chance are allowed in your municipality. So I've printed off information for all three of you on Keno and Games of Chance. I don't think I want to give you guys some time to look it over. However, if there is a desire to put warrant articles on, we have to have a public hearing and start socializing this and doing a PR campaign on whatever our decision might be. So there's information there for you to review. Keno is for businesses. Games of Chance would benefit nonprofits, and there is a sheet in there explaining a little bit about what that process would look like and how many games need to be played in a calendar year and month, and who benefits from those. It is local nonprofits. It wouldn't be, a breakup for all of Merrimack County nonprofits. It is local to the municipality. So take a little bit of time, read through it, and
But what's our timeline?
soon,
Decided we wanted to do this.
soon.
Yeah.
Maybe next Friday or during the budget reconciliation, we can have a quick meeting, because that meeting is public,
Go ahead.
to chat about. Does that work?
I was going to say, I'm comfortable addressing it tonight, if folks want to.
I think I am too.
Okay,
I've already heard from people on this one.
Yeah.
okay. So let's take, and I do have the proposed wording for the warrant articles from town council as well. Should you decide that that's a route you want to take. All right,
You
go forth, my
first.
friends.
I do not like the idea of having Keno gambling.
So let's take them one at a time. So Keno, no to Keno.
Yep, I don't think I would, and I have heard, it's not just my opinion, I have heard from residents in town that they would support a warrant article that would say that the town of New London isn't interested in having Keno in the establishment.
Is not interested?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. I agree. Okay.
Okay, no to Keno. I will get you, just so you can see it, the proposed warrant article language. I know that we do have a meeting to review all the articles in the town warrant, but
Add that one.
yeah, I'll add it, but I'll also get it over to you just so you can see. So Games of Chance, which would benefit nonprofits.
I don't know as much about this one. Do you have an opinion on this one, Rich? But any question, at least.
Can I ask Janet, being that you're kind of my historian for these sorts of things, do you know of any examples where folks have within the town done this or tried to do this?
There was, the outing club at one time had a night, and it was held at King Ridge, and it raised money, and it was, roulette and blackjack and that sort of thing, and they did it, and it was one night, and it was really quite successful, actually. And I think this doesn't limit the ability of nonprofits to do it, but it's for a specified time, if I'm correct, like
Correct.
one night. I would still feel that I'm not sure we really want to allow that sort of thing. But if someone can get something for one night, why not, I guess? That would
But
be
this
my-
says there has to be a minimum of 7, but not more than 10? Is that right? So it's, it's saying you've got to do this 7 times. Is this things like turkey raffles and things like that? I have no idea what this is even.
I don't know if a
Terrible.
turkey raffle would.
I have no idea what this is.
That's Wilmot.
Maybe we better, yeah, maybe we
They don't do
better,
it here.
maybe we better come back on this one. But I
Okay.
think we all agree on the Keno one, but maybe we need to do a little bit more researching on exactly what a game of
Yeah,
chance.
let me just. Games of chance are activities where outcomes are determined primarily by random factors, not skill, with popular examples including lotteries, slot machines, bingo, roulette, craps, and Keno. Well, that's strange. Alongside card games like Baccarat and even simple coin flips or dice rolls. These games, often found in casinos or online, rely on luck for winning and include both electronic and physical versions.
Oh, so I think it's similar to Keno.
I don't really know
I
what
think
Keno
it's the
is.
same, I think it's the same.
I've never played.
Me neither. I think it's the same issue. So I would say we just go for both of them.
Yeah,
Correct,
Right.
not
yeah.
have,
I mean, when you think about it, one of the restaurants could put in a machine.
yeah.
And do we really want to encourage that sort of thing? But then, of course, it'll be the ultimate decision of the town, the voters.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be just for instances of charitable organizations?
Correct. So Keno could be any restaurant, whereas games of chance are specific for nonprofits.
But it's,
Yeah, I just,
Does anybody here have any thoughts?
this thing reads like it's a way for the town to make money. The town is the charity.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
No, Joe, do you know? Okay,
Joe, no.
I'm just reading the thing she gave us here.
Green.
Green.
Joe Cardillo, resident. I can't tell you a lot about the gambling stuff, other than setting up bingo tables in the Catholic Church as a kid, and there was bingo every Tuesday night. Do we have that at our Catholic Church here in New London? I don't know. All I can say is at this point in time, if I'm sitting where the three of you are sitting, I wouldn't be voting on this right now.
Yeah.
I really think every municipality in the state is voting on this. I heard it went to
Yeah.
the polls in Concord, one was voted in, one was voted out. And again, maybe you have all done your research, but me sitting back here, it doesn't sound like you have. And I think you better figure out on both fronts what it allows. And again, there's stuff that goes on that I get a little bit of information, so it's even these places that are creeping in to like Lebanon, Revo.
The
Casino,
Revo
there's
Casino.
something with those licenses that have to do with not-for-profits. That's how they get those licenses. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like we know that that's what we're talking about here. I don't think this is as simple as
Yeah.
running,
Peter
because those were
Christian,
great, right? The casino nights we had with the outing club, we made a lot of money. We did it once every couple of years. It was good stuff. I don't think this eliminates that ability that you're actually voting on that stuff. I don't know what you're voting on, but my recommendation is not tonight, probably.
okay.
There you go.
I guess my point would be, I'm opposed to gambling, just flat out. And I don't want to see it anywhere in
Yeah,
town.
no, I mean, in my own mind, I keep seeing Jimmy Stewart running through Pottersville, and I just,
So I guess the question is, do you want to
Take more time,
take more time?
Yes.
So,
so that we're sure of what we're doing.
yes,
You let us know when you need us to have the answer by.
yeah, but I think before, we have to do the public hearing on
Yeah.
February 4th.
If
And we have to
a
notice
special-
that
if we
10
have to have
days
a special
before.
meeting at 8 o'clock on a Thursday morning, we can.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's take some time. I will see what else I can find online. It was quite hard to find real good information about New Hampshire specifically.
Okay.
But I will see what other
And
research.
HMA perhaps might have.
Yeah, I tried. Well, there is one thing from
That's
NHMA.
not from them? Oh, there it is, okay.
But that's only on one of them, and they didn't have anything on the other. So, they just passed in December, and so I don't think there's too much out there, but I did a good search, but I got what I could find.
All right.
Okay, so let's take some time, and if we need another meeting, we'll do that. All right.
and if I could just mention one thing, just before we get too far afield. There was one other thing last night that I do believe the the Budget Committee, with their, what they referred to as their motion number 5, they did vote to reduce by $20,000 the appropriation to the fire department for training and incentives, et
that's
cetera.
right.
So they knocked it down from 32,300
To 12.
down to,
Yep.
they never got their, they didn't get their math right on this one, but they have it down to 12,200.
Yeah.
That did
Okay.
pass.
All right, so that's the third thing that's.
Yeah, and Lynn has it, she's out for a few days, but she has it when she gets back on Tuesday to create that list of
two.
all the changes, because she was frantically writing them down, so we'll have something for the meeting next Friday.
Okay.
Okay, the Mildred C. Tunis Archives Fund, you guys have a letter in your packet from Jim. It's not that one. Here it is. So the Tunis family has come to us with monies that we can use for the town archives. I'll read at least the first part. The town archives request that the Board of Selectmen accept a recent private donation of $3,000 to establish the Mildred C. Tunis Archives Fund in honor of the first town archivist on the 50th anniversary of the New London Town Archives. This donation has been provided by Mildred's descendants following a visit to the town archives last fall. They intend to offer additional donations as funds are expended. So there's more there that you all can read, but you need to vote to accept the funds here. And he did say a few times that they are very adamant that once these funds are expended, there's more, which is very nice. And I encourage anybody, if you have not been down to the archives, holy moly, it is worth
amazing.
getting some time with Jim. It's really impressive,
Yeah,
really impressive.
yep. Okay. May I have a motion to accept a donation of $3,000 to establish the Mildred C. Tunis Archives Fund?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's awesome.
Okay, we have got the dedication of the town report. And I have those names on a sticky note, but now the sticky note seems to have, we've got, you guys have the list in front of you. Where is that sticky note? We have John Barcel, Annie Ballin, Dan Allen, Jim Granger, Janet Royal, David Cook. Those are the 6, and you have the report. I spent some time with Janet, who has done this for years in the past, and has a good knowledge of folks, and these are individuals that have, over the years, were able to contribute quite a bit to our town. So these were the names that we thought made the most sense.
Okay. Sounds good. So I make a motion.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have a motion to dedicate the 2026 annual report?
2025.
2025 annual report to these 6 individuals, and you'll list the name in the motion.
Sure will.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Wonderful. And now we have got town-wide projects. So one of the areas that I am most passionate about is how our department heads and staff are spending their time. And we have a lot of projects that come flying our way, either from citizens or from the Board of Selectmen, or things that are voted on at town meeting. And it all sort of happens at the same time. And sometimes things start and they fall off because more things come on, and now those are the new priorities. So we spent some time, I put together, and I'll bring it up here. I know that you guys have a copy. Spent some time with our department heads last week going over a PowerPoint of of projects that are either high visibility with the public or are cross-departmental, so they will span multiple departments. This is not inclusive of department-specific projects or day-to-day work, but these are sort of the bigger things that we are facing in front of us. And I spent some time slotting these in on where I thought they could go, and then we refined it last week as a team. And again, so we are looking at a calendar year, January through December, but our fiscal year is July through June. So we are currently in Q3. So we've got the dispatch study RFP. There is a new RSA about reviewing all contracts for DEI-specific language. That has to be done by sometime in February. So we're in the process of reviewing contracts across the town. Academy building remodel, website. So that was voted on at town meeting last year to appropriate $25,000 to make upgrades to the website for ADA compliance. We do have to spend that money by the end of June, so we've got to get going on that. And then the DPW design and engineering. Q4 is a project for Hilltop Street renumbering. This has been sort of a topic socially or amongst department heads and some folks at Hilltop the past few years after there was a fire up at Hilltop and mutual aid couldn't figure out where to go because there's only one street name up there.
Phone call from them today. I'll talk to you about that.
Don't worry, well aware. So we will go through a process of renumbering and renaming streets up at Hilltop and partner with the folks up at Hilltop. We're doing a little pre-work now with the state and the emergency management teams down in Concord. We'll involve Brandon and some folks from the fire department as well. But that'll be coming. We've got to revamp the personnel policy. This has been an ongoing topic, and we've just got to dedicate time that will involve everyone. ADA transition plan, that's for the entire town, so all departments will be involved. We talked a little bit about what that would look like of forming a committee with employees from across all departments. Apparently, they used to have this committee and visit each building, really look at things, make some notes, figure out what's out of compliance and what we can do, and then we'll put together a full plan. That'll take some time. Whipple technology, I think as we know, the technology that we have here is quite cumbersome and really can only be handled by a few small people because it's a Rubik's Cube. We really need to figure out if we want to keep this technology and who will sort of own it. And our thought here is that it needs to be shared by employees, but what that makeup looks like, we need to figure that out. There are some intricacies with our hourly employees who don't have laptops. So we'll figure that out, but we're looking at that for Q4, and we'll relieve Will a little bit of having to come up and get meetings off of the machine here and put them up on YouTube, so we'll share that responsibility. Q1, we will still be in the personnel policy, the ADA transition plan, and then we'll start to look at short-term rentals, which has been a topic amongst the town and also within emergency management, certainly. And I've had a good conversation with Mike Matthey about the history there and what we can do. So we'll start that. And then the dispatch study also starts. We imagine that will likely take a few months to complete. And then Q2 is continuing the dispatch study, the ADA plan. Also, Q2 is when we are fully entrenched in the budget season. And then Q3 now, we are in town meeting, town report, and still in budget season. So quite a bit going on. But the hope is that we'll be able to reference this, so as new things pop up, that I'll be able to work with the three of you to say, here's when I think we can slot this in. I don't think that this plan is set in stone. I think we'll probably see things move around a little bit, but it's at least a framework, and certainly will help us figure out our workloads and what we can take on and when. Any questions? Okay.
Will personnel policy also include the compensation packages that we talked about, that we talked about during this budget season, is revisiting, taking a holistic view and revisiting?
Sort of, except we're starting that sooner. There are going to be components of it because we do pay certain employees in departments a certain way, like the fire department and those full-time firefighters and what their shifts look like. So we've got to do a little adjusting, especially in the personnel policy for that, and how we handle time off specifically for our full-time firefighters who are working, 24-hour shifts. What does that look like? But I think that work for the compensation and coming up with ideas, we're sort of doing separately as department heads.
So you wouldn't identify it as one of these projects?
No, I can certainly add it. I think we
Okay.
were,
No? Okay.
and we've already sort of started to chat about that a bit.
Okay.
Bob has a question.
Bob has a question? Oh,
Ah.
I don't know if this falls into this category, but I had two things that have been on my mind lately. One is the digitation of records. This started in, I think, 2014. Kim mentioned putting some money in for that. And then in around 2021, I believe there was 30,000 recommended, I think included in the budget for digitation of records. And I believe the trustees have a capital account with 30,000 in it that looks to me like it's that money, but I don't know for sure. And I know the police department back in 2019 was digitizing records, which worked out very well and reduced the filing needs. And I'm wondering, one, where that stands, and if it's not completed and in place, whether it might be part of your system to look at.
Yeah, I've had no conversations about it,
Okay.
so we'll do some research. And see
It's
where we-
been a topic around, and the problem is you don't just put the first money in, you then have an annual
Sure,
cost.
yeah.
And so you have to weigh whether, and I think in the past, that's why there's 30,000 supposedly there,
Okay.
that the benefit is worth the cost, but that's something you have to decide. And the second one was, it came up in the context of storage requirements for various things throughout town, and that was a records retention policy. Back in 2019, the administration was working on a policy. It hadn't been completed. My understanding is that it has been completed, that there is a retention policy in place, but I have not heard anything about executing that policy on the records that we have. So that might be something you want to consider as well, as to whether there is a retention policy, how it would apply, and whether there are records that could be gone through and reduce the amount of storage needed for those records.
Will, I was just going to say, Will, do you have, here he comes.
Just enough to be dangerous. Will Kidder, Town Clerk, Records Retention Committee. So we have not met in a really long time, that is true. It just keeps getting knocked around and people go to Florida for winter and whatever. Lynn and I have been talking about, we're going to start in probably this quarter, I would think, by getting rid of some stuff and using some of that stuff from, because the academy building is sort of starting to fill up with ballots and other things. And we have a records retention policy. It basically sort of mirrors what the state's is in their RSA 33, whatever. So we're working to get there. Probably after town meeting, we're going to schedule a meeting to talk more about that and start potentially trying to get digitized. It's a tough thing to wrestle to sort of figure out where you start with it. And I think probably maybe you start with current documents and get them into PDFs and then sort of start dealing with the back stuff as you can would seem to be sensible, but we have not talked about that as a committee. That's me putting words in their mouth.
Who's on the committee?
That would be Ashley. You may not know that, but you are. Welcome.
Thanks so much.
And
Happy to be here.
yeah, no, that wasn't really an ask. So, Steve Thoreau, Chris, the assessor, myself, well, town clerk and tax collector, which I cover both, so that would be me. And
Lynn.
no,
Oh,
no, because Steve does that part.
oh, okay,
So I think that's it. Jim Perkins, sorry.
okay.
Who's the guy that did the dang plan? So he deserves most credit because he's really the one that's done anything here. But that's where that stands. And while I'm standing here, can I go back to Whipple technology for just a quick second?
Yeah.
The technology exists to do Zoom in this room as it is. What we really need is a Zoom policy, which has sort of started to be worked on, because people can decide not to come to a meeting for all sorts of reasons, and you guys need to define what that is. Personally, I think that should be a pretty high bar. I don't think somebody should be able to be, hey, I want to watch the football game at Flying Goose and I don't want to come. So you do that. So I think at some point you'll see that policy, and that would help a lot, because that's sort of where it starts, so we can define what we're going to do. And I know Lindsay will be proud of me for standing here and saying this. We need to do the Zoom thing in technology, but it's a really difficult thing to do, because you can do it for committees only, or members only. That's a thing. I think, my opinion, just me, is that if we're going to do it, we should do it all the way and allow people to participate via that. The downside to that is that you need to have somebody that's actually monitoring the Zoom, and it can't be Ashley trying to type to people in the middle of a meeting and that sort of stuff. There's got to be a dedicated person that does it. And I'm coming up on 300 meetings that I've done, and I would love, my initial thought was that it was going to grow into something else and that I wouldn't necessarily still be doing it, but here we are, and I don't necessarily mind doing it, but it's not a sustainable plan. And it's a selectman's office thing. It's not the town clerk, it's not other departments, it's you guys in deciding that. So do we need somebody to do that? I don't know. That's your call to make. I mean, and I think probably on some level we do, and if it rotates between people and there's some sort of per meeting stipend of $50 to $100 or whatever it is, because it's not a quick thing that you're done with, because you go home and you got to deal with it for 2 hours.
Yeah, I do think that that's important to note, that what we are talking about is end-to-end support. So what happens now is, even if Will isn't here for a meeting, he still comes up here because he has to get the meeting off of that machine, and then he uploads it to YouTube. So the thought is that we need a full end-to-end policy where someone is owning that entire process. And that shouldn't be a member of the public. We don't want them to have our Zoom account. That doesn't make sense. But also, we don't want them to have logins to our YouTube. So it's a bit more intricate than I think folks are making it out to be. But I do have a draft policy. It's with department heads and town council right now, just for them to provide some feedback on what they're thinking. Then I'll get it over to you. Sorry, Will, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I think, and one of the other problems is, every time somebody else touches this stuff, something else is broken, like the projector up there. Somebody hit the projector, so now it's off kilter. So it's a lot of money. I mean, the little recorder back there is like $3,500, and Adam took it out this afternoon, and somebody had done something and taken the card out of it, so I don't think they could record their meeting. So I don't know, it's a hard issue, and it's silly that it's that hard, but it is. So anyway, that's my 2 cents and more, probably.
All right.
So we'll get something over to you, and go from there.
All right. Is that all you got for us?
That's all I got.
Okay. Any committee meeting reports?
The planning board met last week, and we talked about warrant articles with regard to zoning changes, and we have to have another meeting about it because there were significant changes regarding them, so.
And that meeting will be this coming Tuesday at
Correct.
6:30. It's 6:30, and that's the last of the planning board public hearings.
Right.
Just as already been mentioned, we had the municipal budget committee meeting last night, which the two of you had the opportunity to attend, and I do thank you for being there for that. And so you're aware of everything that transpired.
I think so. They're to the bitter end. Okay, all right, we're good. Meeting minutes, you had January 8th on here, and then when I went on today to look at the minutes, I realized we still haven't approved December 18th either.
Oh.
So, does anybody, did you either have a chance to review them, and does anybody have any changes for the January 8th meeting? Okay, and are you guys prepared to approve December 18th or no? Probably not. Are you? No.
December 18th I am,
You are? Okay.
but if you want to hold over.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine with it. Okay, so may I have a motion then to approve the meeting's minutes for January 8th, 2026?
Sorry, December 18th or January 8th?
Oh, let's start with December 18th. I was going to do them together.
Got it. I'm not ready to do January.
January 8th. All right, may I have a motion to approve the minutes for December 18th, 2025? All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we'll have to carry over January 8th.
Okay.
To the next one, and so Housing Commission meets,
Met today.
huh?
They met today.
They met today. And Board of Fire Wards, Monday, 3 o'clock, Planning Board, Tuesday, 6:30, and that is a public hearing still?
It
I just
is.
heard, okay. Budget Committee is not meeting on Wednesday, January 28th. The Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen are meeting on January 30th
Correct.
at 5:30. Here?
Yeah, I'm sorry, so just to be
Yeah.
clear, we are not meeting.
On the
No,
28th.
no meeting on the 28th.
No meeting on the 28th, it's now going to be on the 30th. Okay. Rec Commission, Monday, February 2nd, 5:30. Energy, Wednesday, February 4th, 5:30. Board of Selectmen, our next... Okay.
Yep.
So-
We've got it. Sorry, Casey's been out all week, so I've been doing double duty here, but we've got it, John, on the calendar at the office, and she'll make the changes when she's back in the office.
Okay,
Sure.
all right. And, yep, town election day is March 10th. Okay, I think that is it. That's all we've got. You probably have stuff for us to sign. Thank
Sure
you.
do.
Thanks, Richard.
All right.
Thank you all.